Some good news this week was the announcement of President Trump's Supreme Court nominee. He nominated Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and Judge Kavanaugh is a judge here in the District of Columbia, the U.S. Court of Appeals here in the District of Columbia. The way it works is that there are appellate courts of appeal for various districts in the United States. The United States is divided into, I think, 11 or 12 districts. So one of the districts is the D.C. circuit here, which is one of the most important circuits other than the Supreme Court because it handles so many government cases and big cases in that regard. Brett Kavanaugh has been on the court, I think, for 12 years now, so he's got quite an extensive record. I think Judge Kavanaugh is a home run of a pick. He is a constitutional conservative. He's got a demonstrated record of adhering to the U.S. Constitution, applying it as opposed to rewriting it and amending it, as liberal judicial activists like to do. Some conservatives are concerned he may not be as conservative as he ought to on pro-life and Obamacare. I just don't buy it. You know, I attended a speech of his a few weeks, was it last year? I think it was last year, over at the Heritage Foundation, and I commend to you that speech. It was the Joseph Story lecture. And his speech, Judge Kavanaugh had described his approach to applying the law that will make those of you concerned about having politicians on the court so excited. Because his approach is, let's just follow the law, do what the Constitution tells us to do as judges, which is apply the law as written. And the speech shows that he would not only be a good constitutional judge or justice of the Supreme Court, the speech shows that he would be a leader and a reformer on the court in a positive way. And so I think Judge Kavanaugh's appointment will solidify a good majority for constitutional decision-making on the Supreme Court. So the only question is what's going to happen over the next few months. So I've talked a little bit about this in prior updates. The Democrats are making up every argument they can to try to shoot the Kavanaugh nomination down. And I don't want to answer and address all of them because at this point they don't have the votes. They don't have the votes. And you know, one of the big issues the Democrats have is that, well, you know, it's an election year. Well, you know, it's one thing to have a two-term president at the end of his term of office nominate a Supreme Court judge, as President Obama attempted to do with Merrick Garland, and be told by the Senate, no, the American people are going to make the decision, as opposed to in an off-year election, a congressional election, delaying the nomination or consideration of a Supreme Court nomination just as an excuse, using the election as an excuse to delay it further. I think Judge Kagan was nominated, well, she wasn't a judge, Elena Kagan at the time was nominated by President Obama in 2010, which was also an election year, and she was confirmed. So there was no delay. So leftists are going to come up with smears, and you know, there'll probably be threats of violence and some craziness because of this violent streak that the left is kind of stroking, unfortunately, within its ranks. But Judge Kavanaugh is likely to get confirmed. I can't think of a way that he wouldn't get confirmed. But if you have views as to whether he should be confirmed or not and how quickly he should be confirmed, because there's no good reason that he not be confirmed by October, which is when this new Supreme Court term begins. So in theory, if looking at the timing of prior Supreme Court nominations, they should take about 2 months plus 2 weeks to consider and vote on this nomination. So I encourage you, if you have any issues and want to share your views, call your senators. Let them know what you think about Judge Kavanaugh. I encourage you to learn more about him. I know him slightly from his kids attend the same school as my kids. He's a good man as far as I can tell, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of his judicial philosophy. There are lots of good people who don't share my views on the judiciary. But when you look at many of his key decisions, I think you'll be happy that he made the president's cut. And President Trump did the Constitution a solid by nominating Judge Kavanaugh, who, as I said, I think will be an historic figure on the court if he's approved. So some good news there.